All right. Welcome to your very own deep dive. You sent in those pieces from Trust Me, I'm Lying, that Ryan Holiday book.
Confessions of a Media Manipulator, yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
So we're going to dig into how online media gets messed with, especially with blogs. And Holiday was a pro at this stuff, like actually doing it.
Yeah, what's wild is he wasn't just some outsider looking in, he was right in the thick of it.
Totally. He even calls himself a media poisoner at one point, like injecting BS online.
hmm
He talks about doing these crazy stunts, like one time late at night, messing with billboards in LA
Oh, yeah, yeah.
just to stir up fake drama for his buddy Tucker Max's movie.
See, that billboard thing, it's the perfect example of how easy it is to get attention by making people mad. And the crazy thing is, it worked.
Seriously.
The story blew up, got everyone talking about the movie, even though the whole controversy was totally staged.
So he's saying you don't even need the truth, just a good story. Wow, okay, so how did he actually do it? What were his go-to moves?
One of his main strategies is called trading up the chain. Picture a pyramid, 3 levels. Each level's a different tier of online media.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
At the bottom, you've got these small local blogs, desperate for anything to write about. Often they're like barely scraping by, low standards, which makes them easy to, well, manipulate.
So he'd start by planting a story on one of those small blogs, even if it was totally made up.
Exactly. Then he'd use that coverage to climb to the second level, those legacy media blogs, the ones run by newspapers and TV stations.
Right.
These blogs, they might be more established, but they're still hungry for traffic, often understaffed too. So they see a story getting buzz and they jump on it, not really checking too hard. They want to seem legit and get those page views.
And since they share a web address with their big-name parent companies, it's
Yeah,
like instant credibility, right? Suddenly, it looks like the Wall Street Journal's reporting on something that started on some tiny, unknown blog.
exactly. And that's how you get to the top of the pyramid, the national press. By the time a story gets there, it's been backed up by so many sources that even the big guys, like the New York Times, they pick it up too. So this completely made-up thing becomes national news. Have you ever noticed how a story you saw on some random blog suddenly pops up everywhere?
You know what? Yeah, all the time, and that's kind of scary. But why are blogs so easy to manipulate in the first place?
Well, it all comes down to how they make money. Blogs, they make money through ads, and those ad companies pay based on how many people see those ads. So basically, the more people visit the blog, the more money they make.
So it doesn't matter if the content is true or even well-written, as long as it gets people clicking.
Sadly, that's often the case. A click's a click, and that means money. And this leads to this obsession with scoops, those exclusive stories that get everyone talking and bring in tons of traffic. Like TMZ, they built their whole thing on breaking celebrity news, often in ways that were kind of, well, ethically questionable.
Yeah, it's all about that viral hit. But what happens when there's no real scoop? Holiday talks about this thing called the Ugo exclusive. What's that all about?
The Ugo exclusive, that's basically faking a scoop. Blogs pretend they have some inside information, even when the story came from somewhere else. They're betting that most people won't bother checking other sources.
Oh, wow. You know what? I remember this one time.
It happens to everyone. Remember those Tom Cruise and Scientology videos? Gawker stole that story straight from a journalist, Mark Ebner, and they got millions of views while Ebner got nothing. It just shows how ruthless the blog world can be. Ethics go out the window when it's all about getting those clicks.
So the whole system seems made for manipulation. But what about the bloggers themselves? Are they all just playing along with this game?
It's tricky. See, most blogs, their ultimate goal is to get bought out by a bigger company. Their whole model is about boosting their traffic numbers and how well known they are so they look good to potential buyers.
So they're not actually trying to build something that lasts. It's more like creating a product to sell off for a profit. That explains a lot. But doesn't that create some pretty big conflicts of interest?
For sure. You've got bloggers who might be tempted to invest in the very companies they're writing about, or publishers taking money from brands to write nice things about them. Basically, they're profiting from the very stuff they're supposed to be reporting on objectively. You might find it funny that blogs often slam traditional media for being unethical, but they're doing the same stuff, if not worse.
It's like the pot calling the kettle black. So we've got this system pushing for manipulation at every level. How did Holiday actually exploit all this? He talks about 9 specific tactics, right?
He does. He calls them the 9 tactics of media manipulation, and those are the weak spots he specifically went after to shape the story for his clients.
All right, now things are getting really interesting. Let's break down those tactics and see how they played out in the real world.
Let's start with one that might seem obvious. Bloggers are poor, help pay their bills. Holiday, he lays out the tough reality for a lot of bloggers. Low pay, long hours, not the best working conditions, and this makes them open to, let's say, indirect bribes.
So not handing them cash directly, but more like giving them free stuff, perks, special access, things that can quietly influence what they write.
Precisely. Holiday talks about showering bloggers with free clothes from American Apparel, knowing they'd be more likely to write good things about the brand.
That's sneaky. So what's the next trick on the list?
The next one plays on bloggers' tight deadlines and the constant pressure to churn out articles, tell them what they want to hear. Because they're always rushing, bloggers often rely on people with agendas like PR folks for information. They simply don't have time to do their own digging or checking facts.
So Holiday would basically do the work for them, handing them ready-made stories that helped his clients.
Exactly. He admits to creating fake memos, leaking secret pictures, basically spoon-feeding bloggers the exact story he wanted them to tell.
He's playing them like a fiddle.
Yeah.
But didn't they ever suspect something was up?
Sometimes. But the sad truth is, a lot of bloggers don't care as long as they get those clicks. It's this cynical trade-off: truth and accuracy take a backseat to traffic. And this leads us to tactic number 3. Give them what spreads, not what's good. Holiday's argument is that, online, getting shared and going viral beats quality and truth any day. Bloggers get rewarded for publishing stuff that'll spread like wildfire, even if it's overblown, misleading, or completely false.
You know, it's funny because
Think about those pictures of abandoned buildings in Detroit. They're captivating, right? All that decay and loss. But they only show a tiny slice, a dehumanized version of what's really happening. The human stories, the complexities, those often get left out because they don't spread as easily.
that's a great point. We're drawn to the extremes, the simple stories that are easy to share, and they can really mess with how we understand the world.
Absolutely. And that's how manipulation thrives. It feeds off our craving for the easy, the shocking, the shareable.
It's kind of scary how easy it is to fall for this stuff, even when you think you're being careful online. This give them what spreads thing, I feel like it goes beyond just getting clicks for blogs, doesn't it? Are there bigger consequences to messing with people like that?
Absolutely. These tactics might seem kind of harmless, just fun and games, but they can have serious real-world consequences. I mean, think about it. If you're constantly getting hit with sensationalized or misleading information, it starts to wear down your trust in everything you read.
You start to question everything, and it gets hard to tell what's real and what's fake. It's like that story Holiday tells about Rick Santelli's Tea Party rant on CNBC back in 2009.
Oh, that's a perfect example of how manufactured outrage can have a ripple effect. Santelli, he was a financial reporter, and he goes on this unscripted rant, just goes off about the Obama administration's economic policies, full of hyperbole, questionable claims, but it really hit a nerve with a certain segment of the population.
Yeah, I remember that. It was everywhere.
Exactly. CNBC, they saw that viral potential. They immediately put the clip online. And then, fueled by blogs and social media, it just spread like wildfire, became a rallying cry for the Tea Party movement that was just starting to emerge.
So this manufactured outrage, this carefully crafted narrative, it actually helped to get a political movement off the ground.
That's Holiday's argument, yeah. He's saying that this seemingly isolated event, a few minutes of ranting on TV, was manipulated and amplified to shape the national conversation. And it tapped into these pre-existing anxieties and frustrations, amplifying them, giving them a platform.
It's scary to think about how easily we can be manipulated, especially when it comes to something as important as politics, and it feels like it's only getting worse.
It's a vicious cycle. Readers reward sensationalism, blogs provide it, and manipulators like Holiday, they exploit the system. It creates this feedback loop of distortion.
So where do we go from here? Is there any way to break out of this cycle? Can we do anything as individuals to protect ourselves from being manipulated?
There's no easy solution, but awareness is a huge first step. Holiday himself, he doesn't offer any simple answers. He actually gets pretty pessimistic about fixing the system.
So we're just doomed to be manipulated forever?
Not necessarily. We have to be more proactive. We can't just passively take in whatever's thrown at us.
So what can we actually do? Give us some practical advice here.
We've got to become more discerning readers, more critical thinkers. We need to learn to recognize the signs of manipulation: loaded language, misleading headlines, sketchy sources. Think of it like this. You wouldn't buy a used car without checking it out first, would you?
That's a great analogy. We need to kick the tires on the information we're getting online.
Exactly. We also need to branch out, get our information from different sources, not just the same ones all the time. And probably the most important thing, double check things before you share them. It only takes a few minutes to verify a story, but it can make a huge difference in stopping the spread of misinformation.
That's all great advice, but it feels like a tough battle. It's so easy to get sucked in by those clickbait headlines.
It is a tough battle, but it's a battle we can't afford to lose. Because if we let ourselves be manipulated all the time, swayed by fake stories and manufactured outrage, we lose our ability to think critically, to make smart decisions, to hold those in power accountable.
So this isn't just about protecting ourselves from being tricked. It's about protecting our democracy, our society.
You got it. It's about understanding that the internet isn't some neutral space. It's a battleground for attention, and truth and accuracy are often the casualties.
So we have to be warriors for truth. Sounds exhausting. But seriously, what's the main takeaway here for our listeners? What should they be thinking about when they're online?
The most important thing is to cultivate a healthy skepticism. Question everything. Be aware of the forces shaping the information you're seeing. And always remember, someone, somewhere, might be trying to manipulate you.
It's like we're all in this giant social experiment, and we're the guinea pigs. But at least being aware of the experiment is a good first step.
Exactly. Awareness leads to action. It's about shifting from being passive consumers of information to active participants, engaged citizens, critical thinkers. We owe it to ourselves and our society to be more discerning, more informed, and more involved.
It all comes back to personal responsibility. We can't just point fingers at the media or the manipulators. We have a role to play in shaping the information landscape.
Oh,
Okay, I think I'm getting fired up here. But I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed. All this talk about manipulation makes me want to just unplug from the internet completely.
I get it. It can be overwhelming. But retreating isn't the answer. We need to be involved, but we need to be involved critically. Think about it like this. You wouldn't stop eating just because there's a chance you might get food poisoning, right?
No, but I'd probably be a lot more careful about where I ate and what I ate. So we need to apply that same kind of caution, that same critical thinking to the information we consume online.
You got it. It's about being mindful, being choosy, being skeptical. And remember, it's okay to have fun online, to enjoy the entertainment and the social connections, but we need to do it with our eyes wide open.
Okay, but how do we actually spot this manipulation stuff out in the wild? How do we know if the story is legit or just a bunch of hype?
That's where understanding how it all works becomes so valuable. Holiday talks about how bloggers, in their constant hunt for an angle, they sometimes just make up stories out of thin air.
So sometimes it's not even like they're trying to be sneaky. They're just trying to make something out of nothing.
Exactly. He calls them angle hunters, always looking for that hook to make their story stand out. And because they're always under the gun to publish fast, checking facts often falls by the wayside.
So it's like they're putting the cart before the horse, finding the story before they even know if it's true.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where someone like Holiday can really thrive. He can slip these bloggers fake stories knowing they'll get published without much scrutiny. He even tells a story about how he tricked a blog by changing Russell Brand's mother's name on Wikipedia.
Really?
Yeah, and the blogger, without even checking, just put that wrong info in their article.
Wait, so he just changed some random fact on Wikipedia and that became news? That's crazy.
It sounds ridiculous, but it shows how much the blog world struggles with fact-checking and doing things properly. And what's even scarier is this tendency to just make stuff up. It's not just some small, no-name blogs. Holiday says even the big outlets do it sometimes.
Seriously? But they have whole teams of editors and fact checkers, right?
You'd think. But the pressure to get those clicks and views is so intense that even the big names sometimes cut corners. Holiday talks about how the Huffington Post, they had a front page story about what time the Super Bowl would start.
Wow.
Yeah, totally pointless story for a political news blog to cover, but it got a ton of traffic.
It's almost like they're playing a game where the only rule is to get as many clicks as possible, even if it means throwing journalistic integrity out the window.
That's exactly Holiday's point. And it's a dangerous game because when truth and accuracy lose out to clicks, people stop trusting the media, and it becomes harder to tell what's real from what's fake.
So it's this vicious cycle. The more we reward sensationalism and clickbait, the more we get, and the harder it becomes to actually talk about important stuff and make smart decisions.
Right. It's like we're drowning in information, but so much of it is polluted, twisted, or just plain false.
So what's the cure? How do we break free from this manipulation and misinformation mess?
Holiday doesn't give us easy answers, but he really pushes for critical thinking. You got to question everything you read, know your own biases, look for different viewpoints, and check facts before you spread something.
It sounds like a full-time job. But I guess that's just the world we live in now. We can't just sit back and absorb information. We have to be active, think critically, and be media savvy.
Absolutely. The future of our society might depend on it.
Wow, that's pretty intense. Well, this has been quite the deep dive. We started with defaced billboards and ended up talking about the fate of democracy. Just goes to show how connected all this stuff really is.
It's been great unpacking this with you. Hopefully everyone listening is walking away with a better grasp of what's shaping the information they see every day.
I hope so too. To everyone listening, we hope this deep dive was helpful. Remember that line, trust me, I'm lying. But hopefully now you're a little better at spotting those lies and finding the truth for yourself. Stay curious, stay critical, and stay informed.